Today I'm exploring a landscape sculpted by ice and transformed by man. From a hidden waterfall to a cave surrounded by mystery and legend. I'll take you deep inside the haunting depths of Neath Silica Mines and check out the old ruins of the area's explosive past. So join me as I explore this hidden landscape untouched by time in a quiet part of South Wales. Beneath the landscape of this Welsh valley lies a world forgotten. My journey begins at Dinas Rock, or Craig y Ddinas, meaning a fortress rock, owing its name to the ancient structure at the summit. Over time, it became a hub for mining, and these days, its steep walls make it one of the best inland cliffs in Wales for climbing. From here, I'm walking up the side of the 60-foot rock to find a trail which to the left leads to a haunting reminder of Wales's fiery gunpowder legacy, which I'll come back to later, or to the right, nature's hidden cascade in the heart of Waterfall Country. Now, I did promise you a hidden gem, and this is it. Sychryd Falls and the amazing plunge pool just below it. Perfect to come and cool off on a hot summer's day. It's off the beaten track, it's not that well known, and the chances are you're probably going to have the place to yourself. It's like something out of a fairy tale. Next up, I'm exploring Neath's Silica Mines, a place that once helped this area fuel the Industrial Revolution. Now, sat here at the entrance of the Silica Mine, you really get to feel how cold it is inside. It's a boiling hot sunny day in Glynneath, but when I hold up my hand or even breathe, there's a big temperature difference. So I'm going to get kitted up and take you inside the Silica Mine. To do that, I'm meeting up with veteran explorer and mine owner Roy for a guided look inside. Let's go and explore.
Yes, fine, let's go and have a look.
Now, just before I take you inside the Silica Mines, it's important to stress that I'm an experienced explorer. I'm with other experienced people today. Plenty of people know we're here, so don't try this at home. Now, as soon as you enter the mine, you're greeted by the remains of a bygone era. These heavy abandoned rams, which were used right up until the mine closed some 60 years ago. You can just imagine hundreds of men working down here in the darkness. And you know, they employ people as young as 8 years old. And there's even stories of people working down here younger than that. Now, walking down inside the Silica Mine is the purity of these rocks, almost 100% silica, that made them a target for miners from the 18th to the 20th century. That's because the pure silica rock could withstand the intense temperatures without shattering, and it was used to create Dinas fire bricks for use in the copper and the iron smelting process. The Dinas brick was so good at lining furnaces that it became world famous, and the original mines were quickly extended further down inside the mountain. In fact, venture further in and you'll find this, the deep, dark water of the flooded level, where many underwater experts still go cave diving. But that's not for me. The mine closed in 1964 due to a decline in the need for brick and the newer technology. Now, it's hard to imagine everyday life down here. It's dark, it's dusty, it's dangerous. There'd be cave-ins, flood-ins, fatalities. So this looks like a loading platform where they'd have taken all the silica rock from here on the tram line all the way out. Venture further in and you get a tantalising glimpse into a very different industrial past. From the railway tracks that disappear down steep passages to the air tanks, which were essential for powering the mining tools and machinery. The tram road from the mine was connected with a Swansea canal, which allowed easy transport from here to the industrial powerhouses of Swansea and the valleys. So this is the remains of the old winding gear for a powered incline, and this is kind of where those hundreds of drams would be pulled back and forth along the track, filled with a silica rock. You can just imagine the last person to flick that switch. Did you hear that? So at this point, I should probably say, after that noise, it's made me go a bit cold. So I am going to
leave the mine.
So as daylight emerges, it's hard to imagine the importance of this mine. But here's a fact. In Russia, the fire bricks there are still called Dinas. And it's all because of this mine in Glynneath. Crossing the bridge, there's another cave called Will's Cave, or, to give it its nickname, Arthur's Cave. So why Arthur's Cave? Well, let me tell you, legend has it, it's in there King Arthur and hundreds of knights hid out in secret, waiting to rise again. Early Welsh literature, including the Mabinogion, talks of Arthur as a valiant warrior, suggesting he was well known, even a king of Britain. You can just imagine King Arthur, hundreds of knights, maybe some horses, tucked away down here in the darkness. So spooky. Now, the story became a bit more realistic way back in 1938 when a local explorer called William Lloyd, or Wills, stumbled upon this cave, adding a bit more realism to that legend. So is there any truth behind the tale? Well, that's up to you, but the story of Camelot and the kings of the Round Table has captivated people for 1,000 years. So apparently there's like 300 sites in Wales that claim some sort of connection with King Arthur. But for me, this one has to be top of the list. So let's go see what other fascinating stuff we can find. Okay, not that. Instead, I'm tracing my steps back up the mountain and down the nearby river to discover the remains of the thriving Glynneath Gunpowder Works. It was the first explosives factory in Wales, and it's where they made the vital explosives for mines and quarries right across the country. And the route is littered with the remains of those historic buildings. So that tiny hole in the rock face is the original entrance to the gunpowder works. It's through that tunnel, horse-drawn drams would carry gunpowder from the factory above right down to the site below until they built a tram line along the river. Do you want a sneak peek inside? Now you can just imagine the horses pulling huge, heavy drams through this tunnel. And it's quite unique because they had to wear copper shoes so that the horseshoe didn't make a spark with all the gunpowder. Now, another unique thing about this tunnel is the whitewash on the walls, because this was a gunpowder tunnel, so the men walking through here had special slippers and they weren't allowed flames. So what they had to do is paint the walls in this whitewash on a regular basis to try and lighten the tunnel. Otherwise, they were in pitch darkness. These scattered ruins were deliberately built away from each other to avoid the risk of an explosion, and many of the buildings you see today only have 3 walls remaining. That's because the roof and the 4th wall would have been made of wood to allow any explosion to move up and out. Now, the gunpowder works here in Glynneath was almost entirely powered by Mother Nature, thanks to the river Mellter just below us. And behind me, you can see the remains of the water wheel and the turbine house. And it's here, on this site in 1857, that innovation, I guess, and enterprise transformed the lives of people just down there in Pontypridd Fechan. Back then, no one was allowed to walk in front of a mill, and a special passageway was built to provide access from behind the buildings. Then the bobbinite and the explosives were stored in this building overnight, ready to be taken down the valley the very next day. The factory employed some 70 people, and the topography of the valley was also very helpful. The steep sides allowed the factory buildings to be built into the valley to reduce the impact of any explosion on nearby houses. To prevent a build-up of an explosive in the dusty atmosphere, it was important the charge was kept moist for safety, and the grains in the corning house were then dried slowly in a special procedure known as liquoring. Safety was paramount, and all possible precautions had to be taken. Employees had to change into work clothes on site, including leather slippers fastened with wooden pegs to wear over shoes and boots to prevent a spark, and trousers were not allowed to have pockets or turn-ups to prevent any grit being carried into the works in case it sparked. Even in the event of a thunderstorm, the mill had to be shut down until the storm had passed. Then, as the raw material moved through the works, it underwent a different process, and the quality of the finished black powder was tested by using it to fire a cannon that's now in Brecon Museum. Of course, accidents did happen, including one recorded in a diary of events from January of 1921, whereby an explosion killed 2 men on site. Despite the conditions, factory workers didn't earn any more than workers in any other local industry. However, the company did provide a schoolhouse in the village to educate employees' children, providing some accommodation for staff and allowed employees to build and maintain gardens in the spacious gunpowder works. Despite many years of successful operation, the factory ceased production in 1931 when black powder was prohibited from use in coal mines, and then demand simply fell. Now, by 1940, much of the site was completely abandoned, but there was one problem. Most of the buildings still contained gunpowder residue, so they had to be burnt down and demolished to avoid the risk of explosion. From Sychryd Gorge, I'm following the original tram road down the river, which was built using an aerial ropeway tub system to carry material quickly down the mountain. So that there is Bua Mine, or a bow of stone. It's a limestone rock that's actually part of something called the Neath disturbance, a fracture in the earth, and it stretches from here all the way to Hereford. Now, faults come in all shapes and sizes, and this zone of weakness in the Earth's crust is formed when the rock is put under great pressure, causing the beds of rock to simply buckle and crumple under the huge forces. Now, I know what you're thinking, sat here on the fault line, Jay, we simply don't get earthquakes in this part of the world. Well, of course, you're wrong, because the largest recorded earthquake in the last 10 years in mainland Great Britain happened just over that mountain a few miles away in a place called Glynneath. It happened in 2018. It registered 4.4 on the Richter scale, and the tremor was felt all across the UK. Before that, back in 1906, one of the most damaging British earthquakes of the 20th century happened nearby. It measured 5.2 on the Richter scale and caused major damage to chimneys, walls and buildings from Kidwelly to Cardiff. From the former entrance to the gunpowder works, I'm walking down the road to recharge at the former smithy or blacksmith's workshop, which is now known as the Sychryd Gladys, which offers accommodation, food and a great place to watch the sunset. This area will soon be transformed. There's plans for new parking, a farm shop and an enhanced amazing place to make it an even better environment for visitors. So if you've enjoyed the content, please do give me a like, and why not subscribe? And you can hit that bell icon to be notified when I next upload another epic adventure. So join me then.